people are spending massive amounts of money to try and get more rest. And they don't realize how much their lifestyle affects that. So we're going to talk to you about how to optimize your lifestyle next on Optimize for Life. Hello, I'm Dick Nunez, exercise physiologist.
And I'm Jay Sutliff, professor and registered dietitian. Dick, this week, week number 4 of this 13 weeks of Optimize for Life. We're hoping people are coming along. They have their exercise down, their personalized fitness program going, they're tweaking it. Now they have their diet down, they're adding more green salads and things like that. Well, this week we need to talk about the circadian system of the body. Circadian rhythms, the internal biological clock. Now, it's interesting that most people think that it's just women that have a biological clock that's ticking.
Okay.
Every human being, okay, every organism that's alive has this internal biological clock. So the circadian rhythms of the body. Circadian means about,
okay,
and circa means about, adian means about 24 hours. So this 24-hour clock in the body, okay, we need to try to synchronize our lifestyles to the internal rhythms of the body rather than trying to force our body into a way we want it to operate. So let's talk, what are some of the basics that you would tell somebody about their internal biological clock, and how can we synchronize with that?
Well, what I try and get across to people is, first of all, try and keep regular hours. Even on the weekend, a lot of people go, okay, wow, I'm through that, so I'm going to stay up really late, then sleep in later, then they do it again a second night, then Monday morning comes along and they got to get up for work again. They go, I feel terrible. Well, there's a reason for that. You just threw your rhythm totally out of whack by staying up really late and getting up late. Also, I try and get people to have their meal pattern in regular sequences as well. So if you're eating at a certain time of day, try and stay consistent with that. Otherwise, you start throwing your body off.
Okay, so that's tuning the body and your lifestyle to meet what's supposed to be going on inside.
Right.
Okay, so that's circadian rhythms, synchronizing it. And when I say the word synchronize, I get a picture in my mind of synchronized swimming.
Yes.
Did you think of that? Or even rowing. You see a rowing team going across the water in sync. Okay?
Right.
You get a little bit off, what's going to happen?
Yeah, you're going to start going in circles.
Start going in circles. So really what we're talking about is the biological clocks running inside. So it seems to me that we need to talk a little bit about the light-darkness cycle that naturally occurs outside. Mm-hmm. Okay, we typically push the snooze button as Americans.
Right.
We hit that several times. So we sleep past the snooze and then we rush out, eat a poor breakfast, don't exercise because we're in a hurry. We get out and we're running and we're always playing catch up throughout the day. And when we start out with a bad breakfast, we spike the blood sugars, or the blood sugars are too low. They're bouncing around all day long. Okay? So then we get through the day and then we eat more food as we go on. Okay? And people that get poor sleep tend to eat differently than people who get well rested. Have you heard of some of that?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. And then when we get down to the end and then we get close to bedtime and we start releasing those hormones called melatonin, it tells you you're getting groggy, you're starting to go to sleep. We typically just turn everything off and go to bed, don't we, as Americans?
Right.
We don't, though, do we?
Well,
we actually start taking stimulants in, turning the lights on, turning the music up, getting on our phones and our computers, and we actually stimulate the body even more, and so then we go to bed later.
And people don't realize what's happening to them when they're watching television or they're on their computer and so on, and then they're going, okay, now I'm going to shut that off and go to bed, and they're like, okay, now I'm going to try and sleep. And we look at the body, you know, the pineal gland in the brain is releasing a chemical when it starts to get dark, telling you it's time to go to bed. And that's why during the winter time, people typically want to go to bed sooner and sleep more because it gets light later, as opposed to summertime when they might find themselves staying up later and getting up earlier because, again, they're rising with the light. Because when the light hits your eyelids, and of course, if you're sleeping and somebody comes into your room and turns the light on, you know it's happened even though your eyes are closed because you still see the light. And so people, when it gets daylight, the light hits their eyelids, they know it's getting light, the body's producing chemicals to wake you up, but yet a lot of times we just ignore them and throw the blankets over our head. Now, where you and I live, we're in a little bit of a more advantageous situation because we don't do a time change. We both live in Arizona, and so we get a little more consistency.
That's right.
As far as the hours go. And of course, this is my first full year in Arizona, and I'm looking forward to not having to go through that switch. So, because it does help your rest cycle and keep your body in a good rhythm.
It's interesting because some of the research studies have shown that when we spring forward, okay, and jump forward,
that's bad.
It throws it off, a lot of extra accidents
right.
and things like that. It takes a while to adjust to that.
They don't mind falling back, but they really don't like springing
that's
forward.
Right, that's right. So I've coined, I think the only thing I've ever invented myself is this slogan called cooperation with intended operation. So we need to cooperate with the way the internal rhythms of the body want to operate. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting that they put people in caves, underground caves, took them away from all external stimulus, light, dark, watch, and they basically synchronized to about 24.25 hours, okay? And then they start getting, actually, if they're down there long enough, they synchronize their bodies and get into a nice, tight rhythm, okay? And you bring that out. So talking about eating on a regular basis, okay? So that type of thing, but cooperating with the internal rhythms of the body and making that work. But there's also a 7-day cycle. Have you seen this latest research? It's been around?
Well, you've talked to me about it.
Okay. It's called circadian rhythms, around 7 days. There's an internal biological clock in the body, and they actually find it outside the body, but we see inside the body, we see bone growth. We see rejection of different transplanted organs every 7 days. So what do you think about that? Not only being on a 24-hour rhythm, but a 7-day rhythm.
Well, it sounds biblical in my mind.
What a concept. All right.
You know, it's just the body is designed to follow the path that God put us on. And so often, when people get ready to go to bed, what's a very common thing they do? They have what? A bedtime snack.
That's right.
That's always been the craziest thing. And I was raised with that.
I did that as a kid.
Yeah, I was raised with that.
Ice cream and strawberries.
And my dad, every night before bed, he would have sugar and milk.
That was me.
And as his years rolled on, the doctor told him that he needed to stop drinking. Well, my dad didn't drink. He didn't have a drinking problem at all. But he was developing cirrhosis of the liver, Jay, not by what he was drinking, but by what he was eating. Because what happens when you take sugar and milk and put them together?
You make an alcohol.
You're making alcohol. And I was raised that way, to have that bedtime snack. But then as you start to analyze this and you find out that when you're going to bed, you want certain things to happen.
That's right.
And one of the big things we want is that human growth hormone to be released. And as we get older, that naturally starts going down. When we were young, we could do pretty much anything, and your body's going to bounce back. You know, if you get hurt, I always tell people this. When you're 10 years old, you twist your ankle, 2 days later, you're running around again. When you're 20, well, it might be a week or two. When you're 70, you're down for a couple months because your body isn't recovering as quickly. And human growth hormone is released at night while you sleep, especially during the early hours. You probably have heard before that the sleep before midnight is twice as valuable as the sleep after midnight. That's because you're working with the body's rhythms. And so when you eat something before bed, you're releasing that hormone that you talk about so much, and that's insulin. When that's released, human growth hormone isn't. So your body's working on digesting food, and instead of resting, it's working. And so you're not getting the human growth hormone. And so human growth hormone is being looked at as kind of the super thing that people can take to keep themselves younger. A lot of actors and athletes are on human growth hormone because it gives them that extra edge. But here's the thing, Jay. If you do aerobic exercise, you can raise your human growth hormone 100%. If you do resistance exercise, you can raise human growth hormone 400 to 800%.
Wow.
Now, if you do it medically, not only is it going to have side effects, but it's also going to be very, very expensive. That's why it's considered a drug for the very, very wealthy. But this human growth hormone production is vital to recovery, and so a lot of people just flat aren't recovering. Then you also mentioned the melatonin. You have the tryptophan to serotonin to melatonin, and that takes place while you rest and takes place most effectively, again, in the early hours of sleep. And so if we're not getting those proper chemicals, our body's going to start fighting back. And you look at any type of research, and it talks about depression, so many other things, cortisol levels going off the chart, which is a negative effect on the body's normal chemistry. And if you're not getting adequate sleep during the proper time frames, you're going to suffer.
Okay, so what we're looking at right now is we're looking at a balance of the whole lifestyle.
Exactly.
So many times people look at a fitness program and they say, I exercise, I'm eating really well, but what about the rest of the balance, about getting up at a regular time? How about that, Dick, about getting up on a regular time? Not only going to bed at a regular time, but getting up even on the weekends.
Yes.
We sabotage our own program.
Oh, absolutely.
By staying up late on the weekends, getting up late, okay? And so we're looking at that. Then we're looking at a 7-day cycle. And there's even some early research coming out now where it looks like possibly there's an annual rhythm in the body, a circadian rhythm of the body. So that's interesting.
Sounds like a lot of people have a lot of time on their hands.
Yeah, that's right. Well, that's what researchers do, Dick. They go and they do these things, then we can come here and talk about it. Okay. So what we're going to do next is we're going to go. Last time we talked about green salads. Okay, doing greens, and the first thing people want to talk about is what can I put on them? What about some dressings, making dressings out of seeds and nuts? Have you ever done that?
Well, I just love throwing avocado on there. Okay. That's just absolutely awesome. But I know that there are a lot of, I never have been a real smears and spreads guy.
Okay.
But I know that Chloe has some wonderful recipes. And again, you're kind of a Chloe connoisseur of her fine foods. So
I like to test out her products for her.
Okay.
So what we're going to do this week, Chloe's going to show us how we can kind of dress up our salads and maybe even put some dressings and some toppings and things together that we can complement other foods. But they're not just to fluff the food. It's also there's ingredients in there that actually help us get the nutrients we need so we can get fit rest and actually keep them anti-inflammatory. Because a lot of people don't rest well, Dick, because they have inflammation.
Right.
Okay, so we're talking about nutrients in our foods that can help extinguish the fire and keep that down.
So she's not going to be showing us how to make Thousand Island dressing?
Probably not. Maybe
ranch dressing?
Well, maybe we can alter that. Maybe we could help them in the future, alter and take their great recipes.
So what happens when people do have like Thousand Island dressing or ranch dressing that they're going to buy out of a grocery store?
Okay, typically when you look at it, the ingredient list is longer than sometimes, sometimes the alphabet in the phone book on certain names.
Right.
Okay, so what we want to do is want to minimize those things and not bring in these fake food ingredients and things like that. But we want to bring in real nutrients, real phytochemicals and things like that that taste good. Now remember, all these recipes that we're sharing with people, they're restaurant tested. Remember, Chloe and I have had 2 different restaurants, okay? Thousands of people have eaten these foods, okay? And they're not just health nuts that would come in. They want food from scratch.
Absolutely.
And so these recipes that we're giving the people, not only on our website, but right here when Chloe gets in there and gets going on her part of the program, but they're restaurant-tested recipes. Okay, so we're competing with Thousand Islands and ranch and things like that. And in a sense, sometimes people's taste buds need to take time to switch over because you're not eating a stimulating diet with a lot of sugars and a lot of stimulants in them. So let's break down and go to Chloe, and she can show us some cool recipes for dressings, spreads, and things like that.
Okay.
Hi, in this session, we are going to be talking about spreads, dressings, and toppings. And this is also a way to incorporate healthy fats into your diet. So we're going to be doing 3 things today. We're going to be doing a melty cheese, which is like a nut cheese. We're going to use a couple different types of nuts and seeds in there. We're going to be making a hummus, and we're going to be making a garlic feta dressing. Okay, we're going to start our melty cheese. And for this melty cheese, we're going to add a 1/4 cup. I like to do even round numbers. So we're doing a 1/4 cup of cashews, and then a 1/4 cup of the sunflower seeds. We're also going to put in a 1/4 cup of oats, 1/4 cup of nutritional yeast, and for color and a little bit of flavor, we're going to use red pepper. So we're going to put our 1/4 cup of red pepper in. We're also adding a 1/2 tablespoon of salt and onion powder. And then to give it that little zip, we're going to add a tablespoon of fresh squeezed lemon. Let's go 1.5 tablespoons of fresh squeezed lemon. So now that we have that all together, we're going to add a cup of boiling water to this. I like to add hot water because the hot water helps the nuts kind of disappear when you blend them up. So had a cup, about a cup there, and then I put my top on and turn it upside down and get everything down to the bottom so we can blend this up. Okay, we have an additional cup of water boiling on the stove, and we're going to add our mixture. We want to kind of stir it as it goes in so it doesn't clump. Okay, see how our cheese is thickening up? This will be great to use in some of our other recipes. All right, next we're going to make hummus. Now today we're using garbanzo beans, but you can use any type of bean you want to. And I like to have it heated up, so I have them heated up, and we're going to pour them into our blender bullet. And to that, we are going to add 2 tablespoons of lemon. We're going to add a large garlic clove. Now you can put lots of garlic in hummus. Traditionally also, olive oil is a big part of hummus, but we're only putting in 1 tablespoon today. Now the key ingredient to hummus with garbanzo beans is tahini. So we're going to add a 1/4 cup of tahini to our mixture today. Okay, now we have all our ingredients in our bullet, and we're going to blend this all together now. You see how nice and thick it got? And as it cools, it thickens as well. Our hummus is ready to serve. Now we're ready to make our garlic feta dressing. So we're going to start with a cup of cashews. And once again, because we're blending this, I love to use hot water because it helps the nuts soften it and blend it nicer. So we'll be putting our water in here. I'm going to go ahead and add just a tiny bit of honey just for a sweetener here. Just 1 tablespoon. I'm going to add a tablespoon of brown rice flour, a teaspoon of salt, a teaspoon of nutritional yeast, a tablespoon of onion chopped up, and 2 nice sized cloves of garlic. Go ahead and put that on. And once again, go back to our blender. Make sure everything comes to the bottom so we can blend this well. And here we go. Okay, we're adding a 1/4 cup of water. Now, this same base can be used in 2 different ways, so I'm going to show you both ways. We're going to pour 1/2 of our mixture into each bowl. Okay, you can either add, for texture, some shredded tofu or avocado. So we're going to add in 1/2 cup of our shredded tofu into our first bowl. When picking an avocado, I always like to pick the ones with the stem still intact. And we'll just start scooping it into our dressing, or you can just squeeze it out. either way. Stirring in our avocado, and we'll also stir in our tofu. All right, 1 base, 2 great dressings.
We're ready for our exercise component, and during this program we're just showing you little segments of exercise, and you can actually get full workouts by going to optimizeforlife.org, where we have a lot of videos for all sorts of different situations and for different people, seniors, rehab, women, men, bulking up, trimming down, whatever. And so today we're going to work on something for the shoulders, and this is a very important area. And the reason why is because, you know, Lisa, when people get older, 2/3 of all women over the age of 75 can no longer put 10 pounds over their head.
One of these.
One of those. And what does that mean practically is they no longer can carry their own groceries. Very hard for them to get off the floor if they happen to fall. They can't pick up their grandchildren anymore. So the reality is they're just losing the weakness. But now it's not just women. So because 2/3 of all women and 1/3 of all men over the age of 75 can no longer put 10 pounds over their head. And that's very sad, because we should still be able to live a very full and abundant life even at the age of 75 if we simply just keep exercising and working out. So, and of course you and I have both seen numerous seniors get very, very strong, and we have, you know, people at our facility right now that are 85 and doing absolutely fabulous. So Lisa's going to get into what we call a soft knee position with her legs, and also this exercise can be done very effectively in a chair where you can sit down and have a back brace, and she's going to bring the weights up to her shoulders, and she's going to go ahead and press up. Now, the one thing I want you to notice is you're only going to come down to a 90-degree bend of the elbow and then back up again. Because sometimes when we go down too far, we can get an overstretch down in this area of some of those muscles and causes some pain, especially in that levator scapula area. Okay, push up. Now, let's rotate the grip a little bit here, and let's go that way. Okay, push up. A lot of times people need to switch to a more neutral grip, because that will help them to have less shoulder pain. Now we can also do it and rotate as you push up, Lisa. So you're going to be here, now rotate as you push up. There you go, and then back down. And this also another good way to enhance a little more deltoid activity. In fact, Arnold Schwarzenegger introduced this. In fact, he did it all the way around to the front and then pressed up and turned it, and they started calling it the Arnold press. But it's just a way of engaging more muscle fiber, and that helps strengthen the shoulder area. Okay, that's good. And by keeping it in the 90-degree bend, we're going to minimize the amount of stress we put on that shoulder girdle, but still give a good enough range of motion to stimulate and develop the deltoids. And the deltoid muscle, very important muscle that is like the cap of the shoulder, and you have 3 different bands on there. You have the posterior deltoid, the medial deltoid, and the anterior deltoid, and the shoulder presses will help work most aspects of that, well, pretty much all aspects of that. Okay, Lisa, thanks a lot. Appreciate it. And now we're coming back to Dr. Sutliff, and we're going to talk a little bit more now about how to rest properly. Dr. Sutliff, what do you got for us?
Okay, let's talk now. We've talked a little bit about circadian rhythms, 24-hour rhythms, circaseptum rhythms, 7 days a week. So we're trying to synchronize our bodies to cooperate with the way we're intended to operate. Okay. So I have 10 sleep strategies written down here, Dick. Maybe we have more, but I wanted to make sure we get these in. So we want to, number one, establish a consistent sleep and wake time.
Okay.
You want to expand on?
One question I'd like to ask you, Jay, is how about the people in the Adventist church? We have this thing called lay activities. And a lot of times people will go and have this big potluck and eat a bunch of food, and then they go home.
Okay.
And they lay down and take a nap.
Well, we're going to spend a whole session on digestion, but just a little nugget from that. What we want to do is make sure that we stay in an upright position when we're digesting the food, and ideally maybe even lightly walking, exercising, helps with the digestion. Okay, when we lay down, in the sense we have an opportunity to regurgitate the food, which is we don't want to do that. Okay, so we want to stay in an upright position. Now, I think it's actually probably a guy that invented the lazy boy chair, because at least he stays in a 45 degree, don't you think?
Sounds like a man invention.
Okay.
But the other thing about that It's also been found if you recline and sleep after eating, it's a great way to create dementia.
That's right. That's right.
And we certainly don't want that.
That's right.
We don't want to bring that on any faster than it might happen on its own.
That's right. Okay, so we were looking at establishing a sleep and wake time that's consistent throughout the week.
Okay.
Secondly, you brought that up about going to bed on an empty stomach.
Right.
And I actually, if I'm going to take a nap, I would actually make sure that I actually go to the nap on an empty stomach.
Okay.
Because you wake up all kind of groggy, and you talked about milk, eggs, and sugar making it a perfect alcohol.
Yeah.
Okay. We actually have these little distilleries in our system that call the stomach, and we start creating gases. Okay, and the gas has to go out one way or the other. But we'll talk. That's getting into digestion
we're
again.
starting to run out of time there, Doctor, so we better finish this off.
Okay, so talk to me about alcohol, caffeine, those types of things in sleep. You want to limit those?
Absolutely.
Okay.
We don't want those at all.
What about keeping a sleep log? Maybe some people want to look at what they need to do, write it down.
Okay.
Okay. What about also maybe relaxing, turning all screens off? I have college students who sleep with their phones.
Right.
And they tell me how poor their sleep is.
Yeah.
I tell them, put the phone in another room and you'll get better sleep. And time again, if they do that, they get better sleep.
Okay.
Okay? So another thing we want to look at is using our bed area, not for studying, not for watching TV, but only for sleep.
Right.
Okay? So how's that? Sleep in a comfortable bed and mattress. Some people use the sleep number bed. Some people use different pillows, things like that.
Memory foam. Yeah.
Memory foam. Okay. Another thing is how about pets? Pets are sometimes the thing that disrupts.
Talk to my wife.
Yeah, to disrupt our sleep the most. Okay. We have this joke about raining cats and dogs. Yeah, they reign in our house and they actually are in the bed with us. Okay. And sometimes that can be in the way as well. So those are some of the tips. Some of the ideas. I don't know if that was all 10 of them, but do you have anything to add to that? Do you have anything?
No, it sounds like you got it pretty well. And I was joking. We actually, when Lisa and I first got married, she kind of encouraged the cat, but that didn't work out real well. And she likes to walk on your head when you're just falling asleep. I don't know what you do with your dog, but yeah, it's good to keep the bedroom environment clean and keep it dark.
That's right.
A lot of the artificial lights and so forth people have can really affect sleeping. And so you want the room very dark, and that will help you to get adequate rest as well.
That's right.
It's a very important topic, and people oftentimes don't understand how sleep affects their overall health, but it does. It's part of an optimum lifestyle program. And again, we want to encourage you to go to our website at optimizeforlife.org. We just really appreciate you tuning in. Jay and I love doing this program. God bless you. We look forward to seeing you next time on Optimize for Life.